Hi, I'm Nancy. Welcome to Mindful Yoga. Today we're doing a solstice practice, helping ourselves to enjoy the dark and the quiet of this winter time of year. We'll also open shoulders and open hips, working to a goddess pose. So let's take a seat to do some breathing into the dark for a moment, letting the eyes be soft or closed today. Coming into some trust of the dark within the body, the darkness of the world at this time, this apex of yin energy, the winter, the rest that generates growth. We may not know what kind. Trusting. Coming into the breath, suggestion to focus the breath on the left side of the body, coming up from the bottom of the pelvic floor, up through the nostril and down. Inhaling up the steady, stable force of the earth. Letting go down, down, rooting down into the earth. This is the time to stock wood, to cover the compost heap so worms can get busy, turning leftovers into soil. To plant a cover crop, to nourish the garden while it rests. Barbara Brown Taylor writes, "I've stopped trying to handle the darkness. I let the darkness handle me. Most of the time, all it wants to do is hold me for a while. Slow me down. Keep me from running. Cover me up long enough to remember that being in the dark doesn't mean there's something wrong with me. It means I'm alive, and this is part of the deal. The repeating cycle of light and dark." We're going to rub our hands together and cover our eyes. So warming the palms by rubbing them against each other, creating some subtle energy between them. And then bringing them up to cover the eyes, trusting the darkness. Trusting the resting, the recuperation. And then bringing the hands over the ears, if you like, into the quiet. Then bringing the heels of the hands together, fingers out like wings, hovering that in front of the throat, bringing some warmth to the throat, to the quiet of the voice. Allowing hands to come down onto the thighs. Let the chin come to the chest. Draw a necklace. Chin comes up over one shoulder and then the other. And coming back through center, stretching through the front of the throat. Careful of too much crunch on the back of the neck. One more time. And back through center. Let right ear come to right shoulder. Left arm comes out. Let the arm be out there as the nose and gaze go slightly up towards the ceiling. And the hand comes palm out to the back of the waist. Pulling up on the left side from the hip up through the shoulder. Really just a sitting up straight. Opening through the side of the neck and the chest. Relaxing through the belly. Release, come back through middle. Left ear goes over to left shoulder. Right arm comes out, thumb down. Little gaze and nose turn up towards the ceiling. Bring the hand back behind the waist and lift up hip to shoulder. Letting the sits bones soften down towards the earth. Release and come back through center. Suggesting now to cover the eyes and come forward a bit, strong through the belly. And then as you rise, bring the sides of the arms against the body and open through the shoulders and hands. Aware of the light and the dark. The non-duality of the duality. One more time. And then spreading your wings, coming a little wider, opening up in the front of the spine, folding in, opening in the back of the spine. Stretch between the vertebrae along the ligaments that goes along the front of the spine and the ligament that goes along the back of the spine. Gratitude to those ligaments for keeping things from going too far in either direction. And gratitude to the elasticity that allows us to move as we do. And then coming down through middle, I need to move to a blanket. Perhaps you need to move to a lower seat as well, depending where you are. And we're going to cradle our legs. So part of starting to open our hips, bringing one hand around the outer sole of the foot and the other hand underneath the knee. And just moving that leg back and forth, feeling the socket of the hip joint moving, the ball of the hip joint moving in its socket. And if you want a little bit tighter hold, that's fine. Let's play with it a little bit. Sensing your body's intelligence about the range of motion here. And releasing that leg and coming to the other side. Starting with less range of motion, questioning the body as to what this side works best with. And releasing that leg, bring the soles of the feet together, make a diamond to begin with, and let the knees fly like a butterfly, very gentle flight, up and back, Feeling a little stretch in the inner thighs and the outer hips working, outer thighs working. Then bring those feet back a little bit more. You be the judge according to your body's feelings as to where they should go. Heels might come closer to the groin. Hands might be around ankles or feet or around the toes. Let the tailbone go straight down into the earth and a little lift up in the front lower abdominal muscles. Inhaling up and exhaling over just an inch or two. Where do you feel this in the body? Back and forth a few times as you inhale and exhale. And next time you come over, option to, as you come over, then bring a C shape to the spine, stretching between the back vertebrae. Strong through the belly. Then before you come up, letting the natural curves of the spine return and come up to center. Finding your stable seating position once again. Hands might be on the hips as you rotate the ribs round the hips. Starting small and slow. Lots to feel here. Just learning to sense and feel the body. Our place of darkness within the body. The darkness of the season, the darkness of the inner body, all connected, back around the opposite direction. Two more times. Oh, the sun is really pouring in here right now. And back through center. Put your sitting props aside and come into a lying position. We're going to lie for half a minute or so with our soles together and our knees out to the side. So if you'd like some blocks or pillows to support the thighs, that's fine. Or you don't need anything, as you like. I have my blocks at about a middle position, and I'm letting my hands rest on my lower abdomen. Coming back to that yin breath in the left side of the body. Perhaps letting it now flow up into the right lobe of the brain. That lobe of intuition and creativity that is especially alive in this time of darkness. Then removing your props. Press the feet together. Hands on the lower thighs. Inhale, hips down. Exhale as hips rise. You can let out a heavy breath or a hissing sound as your hips rise. Pelvic floor, giving a little contraction. Diaphragm contracting with it. And one last time. Now extend left leg out long. Right foot, sole is on the earth just 4 or 5 inches below the buttocks. Lift the hips, turn them slightly towards the left. Then make sure your right knee is in line with your right hip as you push into the foot and lift up through the hips. Push down through the right foot, lift up through the hips. Exhaling as you lift. One more time. Coming back through middle, right leg extends out, left sole of foot on the earth. That the hips go over, facing a bit towards the right. Left knee in line with the left hip. Inhale as you're down and exhale as you lift. One last time. And bring the hips back to center. Raise the feet up. Let the soles of the feet come together. Arms, elbows, encourage the knees to separate. Hands come around the ankles or the feet. Head and shoulders rise. Hands might be around the toes. We're pushing down through the legs and the feet. Arms like cables between the feet and the shoulders. Breathing. One last inhale and bring it down. Maybe give a little massage to the back of the neck, under the skull. Maybe open the mouth and move the jaw around. That's loosening things up in that area. Then coming into a moving bridge, feet 4 or 5 inches below the buttocks, arms along the side, tucking in the shoulder blades, tucking the elbows in towards the waist. Press into the feet. Glutes engage as hips rise. Arms also rise in a moving bridge. Fingers up towards the ceiling and then back as far overhead as they go. And with an exhale, letting the hands return. Long exhale as hands and hips come down. 2 more times. Inhale up. Hold long between knees and hips, hips and shoulders, and exhale down. One more time. Please bring your arms up above your shoulders so that elbows are just above shoulders and hands are holding opposite elbows. Let one elbow come down to its side and then come over the middle, and the opposite elbow goes down on the other side. It may or may not come down to the earth. Mine does not quite touch the earth. A way to open through the shoulders in one kind of way, allowing some internal and external rotation. Then allow the knees to join in, but the knees and the hips are going the opposite direction. So when my elbow's going to the right, my knees and hips are going to the left. Feeling, sensing through the body. What's happening in there in the dark? Are there some places that are darker and more stuck than others that can receive some of this movement? One more time to each side. And come back through middle. We're going to turn on our sides. The forearm goes underneath the shoulder. The elbow is under the shoulder, and then the forearm takes part of the weight, and knees are in a mild V. The upper arm comes across the front of the body, fist in the eye of the shoulder. And then we're going to lift up through the hips for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Pause down, continue with the arm as it is, or arm might come up, fingers towards the ceiling for 3, 2, and 1. Continue there, or whichever version you like, or bring the legs out straight into a kind of side plank. Arm can be up or down as you go. 4, 3, 2, and 1. So plenty of room to try different versions of this lifting of the hips. All of it is a strengthening for the body. Coming to the other side. Hand across the chest for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Arm might come up for 3, 2, 1. You might stay with this, or you might come into straight legs, arm up or arm across for 4, 3, 2, and 1. Little challenge here on a dark morning. All right, let's come into a tabletop position. Always opening up that spine a little bit more, bringing the weight into the bottom of the forefinger and the wrist over towards the pinky side to save the carpal tunnel area. Stretching from the collarbone down through the pubic bone as the stomach opens a bit towards the earth, and then lifting with the oblique muscles around the waist, lifting up through the spine. Avoiding sinking too much in the front and overstretching ligaments, keeping some engagement and yet opening and lengthening the spine. Always that lengthening of the spine is an important aspect of our opening of the spine. And one more time in each direction. And coming back through neutral. Make sure your left hand is securely underneath your left shoulder. Weight in the right knee and left hand as the left leg reaches out. Option to have the right arm forward, or it might be down. Either way, a fist at the end of that extended hand can help. Energy going back through the heel of the extended leg. A little bit of sense of connection between that heel going back and the hip on the opposite side. So right hip and left leg kind of connected here to bring stability to the hips. 3, 2, and 1. And bring it down. Left hand under right hand under right shoulder. Left hand might come out or not. Right leg goes back. Long from fist back through heel. Connection between the left outer hip and the heel. For 3, 2, and 1. Coming back into tabletop, we're going to do thread the needle, but we're going to use it to open up through the shoulder and front of the chest area at first. So the right hand, or whichever hand you want, comes up and pauses for a moment up there to the side, armpit and the side of the chest opening a bit, and then coming through under the opposite armpit, opening up, pause, coming through, opening up, pause, coming through, and this time coming all the way through, allowing the shoulder and the temple to come down onto the earth. Always the option after you align the hips to bring the opposite hand back around behind the waist if you choose. Accepting of the possibilities and limitations of the body that you inhabit. And bringing that hand back around if you've wrapped and coming up through tabletop. Left hand reaches up, opening through armpit and the eye of the shoulder, coming in under the opposite armpit, up and under, up and under, and this time coming into a full thread the needle. Aligning the hips, wrapping if you choose. Pushing back up through that right hand, coming back up into tabletop. We're going to come down into a prone position. Coming into cobra today. So hands are under the shoulders, elbows are bent along the body. Become long through your feet. Press into the top of your feet. Then bring a little inner rotation in those inner thighs. Squeeze the sits bones together, glutes are engaged. This really gives a nice sharing of the load of the cobra down through the bottom of the body, the lower part of the body. Then lifting up, using those muscles in the front and back of the torso. And coming down, 2 more times, slowly hugging. Feet down, legs together. And one last time, inner thighs turned in slightly, sits bones squeezing in, glutes engaged for 3, 2, and 1, and bring it down. Tuck the toes, press into the hands, and we'll come up into a downward dog, taking any modifications that you need, maybe coming down onto forearms, maybe being on the back of a chair right now and backing up from the back of the chair. Opening up through the backs of the legs, long through arms. Feel that length through the sides of the body as sits bones come back a little farther, taking some of the weight off of the wrists. And coming into plank, your version of plank, knees maybe down for 3, 2, and 1. Elbows come in, knees down. Just a slight cobra here. And then we're going to come back into child's pose. Any version is fine. I'm suggesting a rabbit where you really curl up. And if knees bother you, you can keep your hips up a bit. Modify as you need to. Hands come along the side perhaps and are coming back to the feet. Imagine you're a rabbit in your burrow, warm as the snow falls on the ground above you. Perhaps something bubbles up as to what is recuperating within you, but don't overthink it. The recuperation happens when we rest the body and the mind. Then coming out of rabbit, hands come to the edges of the mat, a little bit in front of the shoulders, into a puppy pose. Knees are a little wide as hips come back. Nice stretch back from hands through hips. Then lifting back up, knees come under the hips, hands wide on the mat. Chest comes down towards the mat as one leg comes up in the back, in, 2, and 1. Then come up on the knees, hands come back behind the head, dip the head back, elbows wide, coming into cactus arms. Then bring the arms back behind, interlace the fingers, shoulder blades are down and together in the back, and lift up slightly with the hands and arms, allowing some opening in the chest. And we'll come back into puppy. Knees come apart a little bit. Stretch back. Coming back up, knees are under the hips, hands are wide, and now the other leg comes up as the chest comes down towards the mat. One more time. Knee comes down, coming up on the knees. Hands come behind the head. Dip the head back, opening throughout the front of the torso. Coming into cactus arms, wide across the collarbones. Then bringing the hands back behind, interlacing, drawing down below the buttocks or at the buttocks, letting the shoulder blades come together and down. And then lifting, if that serves, lifting slightly, allowing the pectoralis minor to slide, glide, back and forth. One more time. And we're going to come into a brief sitting position. So getting any prop that you might need to sit for a moment. A little breathing. We're going to do a breath that covers all the sensations. So we bring our thumbs against the flaps of our ears. We bring our forefingers maybe onto the eyebrows and the middle fingers lightly onto the eyelashes so the eyes are closed. And then the other fingers just landing. The mouth is also closed. And we're going to breathe 6 or 7 times. You're going to close the ear flaps. Option as you exhale to hum, or you may exhale just heavily, or you may be very quiet as you're in this position. And we'll begin now. And sitting quiet for a few breaths. The director of the Vatican Observatory says that you have to have the good dark to enable you to see the faint lights of the stars, the 1,000 stars of hope in the world. We're going to do a squat now before we rise. You might want a block under your buttocks. You might want a blanket under your heels, or you might want nothing. So find your version of squat. You may also be up if your knees and hips don't really like the squat too much. If possible, arms in between the knees, a little pressure in with the knees and out with the elbows, lifting up from the sits bones, the tailbone, up through the neck and the back and the crown. But no overstraining. Coming back to that yin breath on the left side of the body. Or perhaps you feel you need the centering of a central channel breath. What does the body need right now? One more breath. Then bringing the hands forward and coming into a forward fold. hanging there for a moment with hips high, vertebrae separating slightly as you relax down through the torso and the neck. And then slowly rising up, slowing down in this time of the solstice. I'm going to come into a standing position, holding an orb of light in front of us. So arms are in a big circle out from the shoulders. Let's rub the hands together out there just a little bit. Let that electromagnetivity of the hands warm its way back around the arms to the elbows and the shoulders. Shoulder blades relaxing down towards the waist. Coming back, permeating into the lungs and the heart. Wall Kimmerer writes, the most important thing is to hold that tiny spark of life. If it is in a bud, in a seed, that is our work, to hold on to life. So when spring comes back, there can be growth. Then bringing the hands in towards the chest, inhaling, exhaling as you push up, allowing joints to remain soft. Inhale. Treasuring the yin as you come down, hands in front of the heart. Treasuring the yang as you lift up. And one more time. And coming back to holding that orb, really an orb of energy, light-filled and dark-filled. Allow it to permeate with its healing powers through fingertips and palms, the eyes of the elbows, the eyes of the shoulders, into the inner tissues of the chest, and down into the belly. Then making a frame with the hands in front, turning with the lower ribs, slightly with the hips, but mostly through the lower ribs and upper ribs. Imagining you're seeing a moon, this is cow gazing at the moon, holding the frame around the moon, eyes alert, full of the reflective light of the moon. Reflection on reflection. And slowly turning back to middle. Finding the moon on the other side. Inhaling back through center. Exhaling as you gaze at the moon. One more time in each direction. And come back through middle. Bring the feet quite wide, hands on the thighs above the knees. Let the hips go back and forth. Torso might become rather parallel to the floor, more or less. Letting the hips really feel that movement back and forth without strain. Then coming to stillness, allowing the feet to be wide. Bring the chest down over the front of the right thigh, coming across to the left thigh and up. Then back down over the left thigh, across and up. This is called steadying the heart. We steady our hearts through this time of dark, nurturing the seeds that are within us, nurturing the seeds of the world. And come up through center. Bring the feet together so the feet are directly under the hips. Swaying back and forth just a moment through the roots of the toes and back into the center of the heel. Slowing down, swaying. Then bringing the weight into the left foot. Making sure that you have good contraction on the side of those left hip, little turn in that inner thigh, and the little squeeze in the sits bones. The toe pivots as the knee comes to the front and then to the side on the right leg. Toe can completely stay part of the connection to the earth, or it can float up into the air. Arms might come up for a little balance. Just having a little dialogue with the body here. What's best for this time of quiet and rest? And bringing that foot down. Finding your balance, your centered, balanced place through the foot, the arch engaged up through the leg and the hip. Then bringing the toe up on the left and turning the knee. Preparing for goddess. Maybe coming up in the air or not. And bring that foot down. Now bring the feet wide again. Toes might be slightly out towards the corners of the room. Knees are over the toes or in the direction of the toes, but you can see your toes on both sides. Hips come out to the back, and we're coming down into goddess now. Arms come up into cactus. Just testing the waters with goddess for a moment. And then coming back up. Come into a star. Fingers diagonally up, sparkling up, those little sparks of light that we can see in the darkness. Wiggle the toes a little bit, sparks of light on the earth. And then a nice luxurious side bend over to one side and then the other. Slowing down. Time to feel. Time to nurture. And time to open in some of those darkest areas of the body. Maybe into the biome of the intestine. Into the nooks and crevices of connective tissue and muscles. Inviting the synovial fluid, that hydration of the joints, to seep out. And one last time. Coming back up into star. Arrange the feet so that you can bring your weight over into one foot and balance and come back over, adapting as you need to. Aware of the foot coming down so that you have some weight under the big toe and across to the other side of the heel, center to outside of the heel. If you put your foot down in a balanced way, this becomes easier. One more time on each side. Then coming back through center, arranging the feet wide, slightly out to the corners, hips come out in the back, knees bend. You can see your toes, arms in cactus. Feeling broad through the chest, reaching out through the elbows. The heart of the goddess, a light in the darkness, feeling that energy within you, connecting to the world. And then coming up, knees straighten and hands come up, back down into goddess. At the pace of the body. One more time. And the possibility of bringing the hands to the hip creases and bringing the torso forward. So my whole torso is coming forward, strong through the belly, just as far as the body allows, and coming back up. The goddess strong in the front and the back, below and above. Her love stretching in all directions. And then coming up through center once again. One last goddess pose. And rising up into star. Then we're going to bring one hand down across over to the shin or thigh or ankle as the upper hand reaches up. Come across and over to the other side. And come back through center. Bring it all up. And do it once again. One more time to each side as you stay down here this time. Come back through center. Hands come to the hips. Torso comes parallel and then come up. We're going to do a triangle and a half moon since we're honoring the moon, the goddess's moon, the moon, the queen of the dark. I am going to have a block there because when I come into half moon, I want something to rest on. You might have a couch or a chair here to rest on. So readying your props. We'll start a little back from your prop in a triangle pose. So bringing the hands to the hip creases, letting the hips go in each direction. Ending up towards the back of the pose, opening through the chest, reaching frontwards towards the horizon, windmilling, fingers down, fingers up. Imagining yourself a channel between Earth and the rest of the universe. Then bringing that top hand down to the waist. Bring the weight into the front foot. Weight comes forward as you find your chair or your block. Back leg might just stay down, toe on the mat, or it might rise up. The top arm might stay with the hand on the hip, or it might rise up. Sensing the opening through the pelvic bowl, the chest, the heart. And knowing the back of the body as well, between the shoulder blades, down in the lumbar spine. For 3, 2, and 1. And bring it down. Bringing your prop over to the other side, readying that. And then coming into a triangle pose. Getting your triangle legs. front leg is not bent, it is straight. Bring the hip back and forth, towards the back, towards the front of the pose, ending towards the back, opening through the chest, reaching towards the horizon. One hand up, one hand down. Aware of the sides of the waist, the pelvic bowl, the feet softening into the earth, walking like a goddess on the earth. One more breath here. Then bringing the weight forward onto that front foot, back foot comes up a little bit, letting the weight come down onto chair or block, deciding where your back foot is going to be, where your upper arm is going to be. Opening in just the way the body you inhabit knows how to open. Respecting the dark, respecting the light. For 3, 2, and 1. And bring it down. Taking a breath. Slowing down. Being alive. Hands come up overhead. Bear down through the feet. The feet are right under the hips now. We're going to do a quarter moon side bend. Fingers interlaced with the forefingers up towards the sky. Breathing from the bottom of the feet all the way up through the crown, up through the fingers, and opening on one side of the body, staying long through the spine. That quarter moon of the spine, smooth like the crescent moon, up through center and over. Not so much over as long. 2 more times in each direction. Gradually coming up through middle, palms down as you reach out to the sides, bringing them down to the legs, and then one big gathering of chi, prana, life force all around us, gathering it above your head. And washing it down through head, heart, and belly, washing out the tired energy, welcoming in the healing energy. The healing of the dark, quiet energy of solstice. Coming down onto the dark of the pelvic bowl. Small circles there. And then we'll come down into a lying position to end our time together. Sinking down for a moment into the earth, back of skull, shoulder blades, hips, calves and heels, elbows, hands. Right leg is extended as left foot comes up by right thigh. Lift the hips over to the left slightly. Left foot comes up on right thigh. And right hand draws that knee over, finding comfort for the body, spiral for the spine. Releasing, rolling back to center, left leg extends out, right foot comes up by left thigh, hips go over to the right slightly, right foot on left thigh and drawing it across. Finding your place of comfort and ease. Settling in for the long winter. Allowing regeneration to occur. Releasing back. Feel free to continue to lie and relax. If you're coming up into your day, you might give your knees a hug. And then rolling over on your side. Coming up into a brief sitting position. Hold that tiny spark of light. That is our work. To hold on to life. To let it grow in this time of darkness. Namaste. Thanks for practicing.
Thank you, Nancy.
Good to be with you all. Have a good holiday. Bye-bye.